Sarvatirthamayam Devam, Sarvavedanta Samshritam, Sarvalokaikasharanam, Natham Devam Umapatim. Across the secret landscape of time, a few souls rose, not by power, not by birth, but by the fire of their devotion. A king who surrendered his crown before the divine. A guardian who protected the Lord's honor with fierce purity. And a priest who worshipped even when life itself was slipping away. And then a warrior whose loyalty to Lord Shiva surpassed ever earthly bond. These are not just stories, they are mirrors reflecting what the human heart becomes when touched by God. In the ancient temple towns, where the scent of camphor lingered in the air and the conch shells echoed at dawn, there lived 4 souls whose devotion carved their names into eternity. Their lives were not gentle or perfect or safe, but they were true. In every breath, in every test, they held on to Lord Shiva with a grip stronger than fate itself. Kazharsinga Nayanar, the Pallava king, was a warrior whose footsteps shook battlefields, yet inside him flowed the tenderness of a saint. His victories were credited not to his sword, but to Mahadev's grace. When he travelled to Thiruvarur, a place in India, with his queen, it was not as a ruler seeking worship, but as a devotee seeking the dust of the divine. The temple, shimmering with lamps and steeped in incense, was a world where even a king felt small. Along that sacred corridor lay flowers gathered for Lord Shiva's worship, fragrant, delicate, and resting like fallen stars on the ground. As the queen walked past, one flower caught her eye. Maybe it was the color or the scent or a simple moment of human curiosity. She lifted it to her nose, unaware that even a fallen flower, once dedicated to Lord Shiva, holds its own sanctity. Watching from afar was a humble guardian of the temple whose heart beat with uncompromising reverence. To him, nothing touched by ritual belonged to the world anymore. It belonged only to Lord Shiva. And seeing the queen handle the flower so casually shook him like a spark in dry grass. His reaction was immediate, fierce, and born of total devotion. He cut the queen's nose. His action may appear extreme, but inside his heart lived a truth. The Lord deserves the highest purity, no matter the cost. The queen cried out, and the king, Kazharsinga Nayanar, came rushing, his royal instincts blazing. But when the guardian explained the sanctity that had been unknowingly disturbed, something shifted inside the king. Instead of exploding in anger, he softened, because he saw the sincerity of the devotee. He saw that this was not disrespect, not rebellion, but raw, unfiltered bhakti. In a moment that defined his soul more than any battlefield ever had, the king upheld the sanctity of Lord Shiva's worship even above his own royal household, by then cutting off the queen's hands. And then, suddenly, the air itself shifted. Celestial beings, unseen by ordinary eyes, showered divine blossoms upon them both. For in that moment, 2 men, one a king and one a humble devotee, stood equal in the eyes of Lord Shiva, united by sacred devotion. Far from the grandeur of battlefields lived another king, Idangazhi Nayanar, whose throne was built not on force but compassion. His kingdom thrived on dharma. Temples glowed with his care. All the temple priests felt supported, and all the devotees felt protected. And he believed deeply that everything he possessed was Lord Shiva's gift, and therefore it was all Lord Shiva's property. One night, a hungry devotee, unable to worship properly or feed the fellow devotees, slipped quietly into the royal granary. The grain stored there was abundant, enough to feed thousands. The devotee took just a small amount, enough to continue his service to Lord Shiva the next day. But a watchman saw him and dragged him before the king. Idangazhi Nayanar listened, expecting excuses or fear. Instead, he heard the truth. The devotee said that he took the grain so that Lord Shiva's devotees may eat. The king felt something inside him break open. This was not anger but realization. This grain was not his. This palace was not his. The kingdom was also not his. Everything belonged to the master of the universe, to the Lord who dances atop creation. And in that moment, Idangazhi Nayanar rose beyond kingship into sainthood. He opened the granary doors permanently and let every devotee take whatever they need. Hunger shall never stand between his people and his Lord. The people wept with gratitude, and Lord Shiva himself blessed Idangazhi Nayanar, carrying him into eternal remembrance. In a small village far from crowns and granaries lived a simple priest, Pugazh Tunai Nayanar. His world was small, a temple, a shivaling, a few worn copper cells, and his unshakable devotion. Each morning before dawn, he stood before the deity, pouring water over the shivalingam, whispering mantras that flowed like honey from his lips. But famine strikes without warning. Hunger crept into every home, every life. Even the priest's thin body grew weaker by the day. Yet not once did he fail in his worship. His hands trembled, his vision blurred, but his devotion burned brighter than any lamp. One morning, while lifting the pot for the Abhishek for Mahadev, his strength finally gave way. The vessel slipped. He collapsed unconscious on the temple floor, and his head resting near the feet of the Shivalingam. That night, in the quiet darkness, a presence appeared, gentle, luminous, unmistakable. And Lord Shiva spoke to his devotee with the compassion of 1,000 mothers. Lord Shiva said, "My child, do not fear. You have served me with a heart that never bends. Until this famine ends, I shall place a coin here every day. Take it, eat, and live, for your worship sustains the cosmos." At dawn, the priest awoke to find a shining coin beside the Shivalingam. And the next day, another one, and another one. In that silence of famine, Lord Shiva fed his devotee with his own grace. And then there was Kotpuli Nayanar, a man whose devotion struck like lightning. As commander-in-chief of the Chola army in India, he was respected, feared, and obeyed. But behind the warrior's exterior lived a soul that bowed only to Lord Shiva. With every bit of wealth he earned, he purchased paddy exclusively for the Lord's offering. To him, each grain was sacred. And before leaving for war, he entrusted a large supply of a sacred paddy to his relatives, saying firmly that this is the Lord's wealth. Guard it, do not use it, it belongs to him alone. But famine does not respect warnings. Hunger can silence reasons. His relatives, even his own parents, ate the paddy meant for Lord Shiva. When Kotpuli Nayanar returned and learned what had happened, he was shattered. To him, this was not a casual mistake. It was a violation of a sacred trust, the trust between a devotee and the divine. His devotion lived beyond the boundaries of human logic. And in that fire of absolute surrender, he punished every offender, placing the Lord above blood, above attachment, and above his own heart. It was a moment that world might not understand, but Lord Shiva did. The very instant his sword stilled, and Lord Shiva appeared radiant like 1,000 suns, filled with compassion that transcends judgment. And with one gesture, he lifted Kotpuli Nayanar and all the departed souls into his eternal abode, revealing that the Lord sees intention, not action. The Lord sees devotion and not consequence. and the Lord sees surrender, not fear. 4 lives, 4 hearts, 4 extraordinary paths toward one divine light. One protected Lord Shiva's honor with fierce purity, and one opened his kingdom so no devotee could ever know hunger. One worshipped even as his body failed, and one placed the God above every earthly bond. Their paths were different, their tests were different, and their sacrifices were different, but their destination was the same, the feet of Mahadev. 4 hearts, 4 paths, one eternal light. Each devotee proving in their own way that true bhakti does not bow to hunger, fear, family, or fate. And when devotion reaches that depth, Lord Shiva does not wait in distant temples. He steps forward, breaks the veil, and lifts the devotee into his own embrace. May we walk toward Mahadev with even a fraction of their courage. May Jagat Pita Mahadev bless us all. Keep seeking, keep chanting, keep surrendering. Om Namah Shivaya.